Hey guys, welcome to this video and my channel. My name is Heather. I'm the owner and creator here at Wicked Whiskey Designs. And today we are doing our very first chunky glitter tumbler. Do you remember your first tumbler you ever did? Was it absolutely horrific? Because mine was. Like the first 10 I did was horrible. And as somebody who loves chunky glitter, let me tell you my massive disappointment every time that cup did not come out like I wanted. So that's what this video is about. It's going to show you an easy, quick way to do chunky glitter so that you can move on and start doing bigger and better cups. If you are new to this channel, consider liking and subscribing. I have a ton of content on its way, so you definitely want to get notified of when those videos drop. And don't forget to hang out to the very end for the tips and tricks section. That's where I share with you all of my tips and tricks so that you can make this cup as easy and as perfect as possible. And I have a feeling there might be a lot to talk about in today's video, so full warning on that. Also, all of the products that I used in this video are listed down below in the description box, so definitely check that out if you're looking to use the exact products that I used to make this cup. There's also probably a coupon code or two down there for you, hopefully save you a little bit of money. And I can hear my dogs barking at the Amazon guy, so I'm going to wrap this intro up. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you everything. Hey guys, what are we doing today? Okay, so we are going back. We are going back. Do you remember the very first glitter tumbler you ever did? Because I do. Mine was horrific. Absolutely horrific. Like, I did no research. None whatsoever. I think I pilfered like $100 out of the checking account. I bought like a $20 spinner from Amazon and like overpriced stainless cups from Amazon and took my little $40, 40% off coupon down to Michael's and got the little, obligatory starter kit of 8 ounces of Alumilite. And I think I grabbed like a couple of those square shakers of glitter from Walmart. And I was ready to go. Absolutely. Let's do this. Did not watch one single video on what I was supposed to do. I just said, let's go have fun. Let's go do this. I remember I called my husband because I was working from home at that time. Obviously not doing this. I remember calling my husband, and if I could have had him on FaceTime, because I can literally see the look on his face. I remember him at work, all right? He used to build boats. He was, production big manager and, overseeing everybody. And here's his wife calling him. So do you know how to, like, make epoxy? And I can see the look, and it would have been something like, okay. And I'm continuing the conversation. Like, it says I need to like make a pot, like, do I mix it? Do I like, it says 2 parts. Like, do you know how to do this? Needless to say, I ripped him into doing the very first one. I think for a 20-ounce tumbler, I think we, no joke, mixed up about like literally a cup like this, a full cup. And not only that, but I proceeded to try to put the entire cup of epoxy on there. So it's all like dripping off like in river. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. I chose black glitter because of course I did. So it looked like tar because I don't know anything about adding in sparkle. You know what I mean? Oh, it was horrible. Absolutely horrible. So fast forward to now. One of our YouTube family girls had, made mention that she had just come into a bunch of, epoxy and glitter making glitter tumbler making supplies really cheap. She was getting ready to get started. She was all excited. And she asked me if I could point her in the direction of like a starter video. And I was like, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. So that's what we're doing today. She's a chunky girl. And by that, I mean, she loves her chunky glitter, as do I. So we are going to do your very first chunky glitter tumbler tutorial here. Now, I'm telling you, I've spent way too much time trying to figure out what color we are going to use. And I'm going to be honest, we're going to completely make this, we're going back. We're going back. We have the Tub O Recollections Opal Glitter here. We are not going to go with the fancy, $18 bag glitter for this tutorial. If you are starting out, you need to save your money, okay? Because it's ridiculous. Like, you're going to get the whole like glitter addiction thing going, and then you're going to be like calling your mortgage company and be like, so about this month's mortgage payment, Did you hear that there was a glitter sale? Okay, they're not going to understand. So kind of temper yourself, because as you're learning, you don't need to go buy the really, really expensive glitters. You don't. They're pretty. They're blingy and bangy and beautiful. You don't need to do that, okay? Don't do that. And the thing with Opal that I do love about Opal, because I spent so much time picking out, like, let's use this glitter. No, let's use this. Use this. No, we are going old school with Recollections, because number one, Recollections is awesome. I don't care what anyone says. I love Recollections. I still have Recollections. I use it. I have behind me here, I just thought about this. See those cups right there, the purple and gold? That's a 35 cup order, and she wanted Recollections glitter on it. Okie dokie. So, you know, Recollections at Michael's is not bad glitter. Is it the best? Maybe, maybe not. But it's inexpensive. It's easily accessible. You're not paying shipping, okay? And you can run down with your 40% off coupon, and you can go ahead and, like, this big old thing, this will last forever. I think this was $9, maybe $9, maybe $12, but no, I'm still thinking it's like $9. The fun thing with Opal is this: you can literally paint your cup any color you want and then put Opal glitter on top of it, and that paint base is going to shine through. So if we did those purple cups back there, if I put this white Opal glitter on those purple cups, it's going to look purple. Your color of your cup is going to be purple because it's going to shine through the Opal glitter. These are good things to remember. If you are, spray paint's expensive these days. Glitter is expensive these days. If you have access to spray paint and not glitter, pick up the, you know, the gallon jug of Opal glitter here, and you can still experiment and have fun with that. If you have green paint and you put Opal on top of that, you have a green, you know, glitter tumbler for all practical purposes. It doesn't need to be chunky glitter. It can be fine glitter, you know, whatever, but just kind of keep that in mind, and we'll talk more about that later. So for this particular video, we are going to go ahead and do a chunky white Opal, turn around so the barcode's not showing. We are going to do a chunky white Opal glitter tumbler, like from the beginning. I'm going to show you how to mix epoxy. We're going to talk about the different instruments used to mix epoxy properly. I will not be doing that portion because I stir epoxy like trash. Okay, no matter how slow I go, I mean, I can sit there for like 20 minutes stirring epoxy and it's still going to have bubbles in it. Or I can use my little electric, you know, juju thing and still have bubbles in it, but be done in like a minute and a half. Okay. You know, once upon a time we had, oh my God, it's what we call the tsunami. We had like 1,300 sales, like almost overnight. Okay. It was a ridiculously horrible 2 months of my life, one I never want to go back to, but I learned literally so much as far as mistakes and what to do and what not to do. And the thing is, we had 40 cup spinners. We were running them, all 40 of them, 3 times a day. And even after that, you know, I was doing like 150 cups a week for like years. So me sitting there stirring up 4 cups, full cups of epoxy 3 times a day, that just was never going to happen. My husband, my husband is like an idiot savant guru of mixing epoxy. Who knew? He can sit down and just like bippity boppity boo that epoxy, and it looks like a glass of water. It's clear. It's perfect every single time. That's not me. I can't do that. So we are going to rook him into this video to show us all of the things that you're supposed to do if you are hand mixing epoxy. You know, stainless versus silicone versus popsicle sticks. We're going to get him all up in this. And I'm also going to show you the epoxy method for applying your chunky glitter. Chunky glitter, as much as I do love it, and I am a huge fan of chunky glitter. The thing with chunky glitter is if you are not applying it epoxy method, it's very problematic. My problem is I like how it looks. I think it looks better if you don't apply it epoxy method. But if you apply epoxy method, it's going to lay down flat. And why don't I like it? Because it looks flat. It's a conundrum. I'm going to show you how to do an epoxy method though, because you're going to get the best results that way. So we are going to go ahead, get started. We're going to go have some fun. I've got a white spray painted cup. It's currently drying right there. And so as soon as that's dry, we're going to get it on the spinner and we're going to get started. It's going to be fun. Okay, so I have a full cup of epoxy, but I am going to put just a very thin layer on. I am running other cups, in addition to doing this tutorial. That's why I have 17 gallons of epoxy here. And no, I am not trying to put the entire thing on this cup. So you're going to put a very thin layer of epoxy. When you are adding chunky glitter, you know, chunky glitter is gorgeous, but it can be very problematic at times. And adding your glitter epoxy method is honestly the easiest and the best way to get really great results. Like I said, to me it just looks flat on some designs, but I also understand why it's necessary to, you know, to add it in this way. I'm gonna go ahead and add that. Like I said, very thin layer, just enough basically to make the glitter stick to the cup. We are going to hit this with our torch and blow out any micro bubbles. When it comes to applying chunky glitter tumbler or any glitter via epoxy method, you have to blow out your bubbles on every single layer of epoxy that you're adding. I know that's best practice for anything, but this is especially true when adding chunky glitter, because you're adding the chunky glitter to epoxy, and all those micro bubbles that you don't blow out are going to come up to the top. And even if you blow out your micro bubbles every single time, there's still a chance you're gonna get bubbles. It just is. It depends on the epoxy you're using. It depends on the temperature of where you live and the area that you're working in. There's a lot of different factors. So, you know, it's one of those things that it's important to find an epoxy that you are, you know, able to work with, that you love, that you can manage in that respect. Keep in mind, these are handmade. You know, you're not always going to be able to get out every single micro bubble like some people seem to think, but, you know, you always want to do your best. Okay. So how I like to do this is this. I have something underneath. Now, there's different ways you can do this. If you have a tray, you can slide a tray. If you like a silicone tray under there, you can use a piece of parchment paper. You can use, like, I just have a tendency to grab, you know, people's orders forms and just turn them upside down so you can't see who they are. Whatever works for you, okay? Now, be mindful. You're sliding this under a cup with wet epoxy. Be mindful to keep the space from whatever you're using to catch the glitter away from your cup. I feel like some of you are like, well, duh. Trust me, I can't tell you how many times I've run this into wet epoxy. So be mindful to keep this down far enough to where your paper is not going to touch your cup. Very lightly sprinkle your glitter on. You do not need to drown your glitter, or your cup in glitter, I should say. But you also want to make sure you're going for full coverage. If you miss spots, can you fix them? Sure, you just have to do a second round. But honestly, doing that is going to add weight to your cup. So kind of keep that in mind. We're shooting for full coverage on this first go round so that we don't have to worry about doing a second coat. I do mine in, you know, as you can see, segments. You know, do what's comfortable for you. If you have something underneath catching all this glitter and you can just go buck wild on it, go for it. If you're like me and have a tendency to drop things, spill things, run into things, maybe take your time. Okay. Now, I am going to very carefully pull this out from underneath, not to get my cup involved here. I'm going to put my glitter back in my bottle. And, did I epoxy the bottom? No. Okay. Now, what I normally do for these, sometimes, you know, you can sit there, if you have epoxy the bottom of your cup, you can shoot glitter up on the top, you know, up on the bottom there and fill that in. I have a tendency to get that everywhere if I do it that way. So what I will do is wait for this to be cured and finish, you know, spinning, and then I will hit that with spray adhesive and just, you know, dip my cup into a pool of the glitter and cover it out that way. That's just my way of doing it. So you have here, it's fully covered. We're going to let it spin for a minute so that, you know, the epoxy is going to kind of move that glitter around, fill in any of the missing spaces, you know, the little micro spaces that don't get covered with chunky glitter. Okay, so now that that's been spinning, I have here a piece of parchment paper, and I'm going to fold, kind of about that size. where am I at? About that size. And what I'm going to do very lightly, because I don't want to disturb, I'm not trying to go in and be like, ah, pat, 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 because it's going to mess everything up and your glitter's going to go in every direction. But I do want to pat down just a little bit so that the glitter does not stick up. The more your glitter sticks up, the more epoxy you are going to need to add to your cup to fix it. And more epoxy means a bigger, thicker cup, more opportunity for micro bubbles, more opportunity for mistakes, bugs, dust, dog hair, you know what I'm saying? So doing this just kind of helps it on its way. Is it perfect? No, but at least we're getting most of it, you know, flattened out. We're gonna let this spin. As soon as this is fully cured, we'll be back. Hey guys, okay, so as you can see, she's beautiful. Now there are just like a couple little boinky points, not many though. Using that parchment paper to kind of push that down, that glitter down when you applied it, definitely helps obviously push it down and keeps it from standing up so much. I have a naked bottom this early in the morning. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this with spray sealer. I'm going to pour glitter out onto a piece of paper, and I'm going to basically just drop this into that little glitter pool, move it all around a little bit, make sure it's there, and I'm going to go ahead and press it down, make sure everything is stuck very well and as flat as possible. Now, I figure you don't really need to do that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do at this point is this. Obviously, I have to hit this with spray sealer to seal the bottom, but I'm not going to just do that. I'm going to cover my entire cup with spray sealer. The reason is this, and I'm sure you've heard me say this in other videos. Certain chunky glitters will repel certain epoxies. Just on that first run. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's something in how they make it or how they seal it, or I don't know the intricacies of, you know, glitter making and what production and whatnot, but there's something. I will say I've only had it happen to me once with fine glitter, and it was with an epoxy I had never used before. So to me, that was an outlier. But when it comes to chunky glitter, even if it's a glitter that you've used 100 times on 100 different cups, using the spray adhesive method, okay, what's the last thing you do when you're using the spray adhesive method? You hit it with spray sealer. It becomes a non-issue at that point. But this is all naked glitter. So using epoxy on it, and if you've never used the combination of the glitter you've chosen to use and the epoxy that you normally use, that you're using for today for this project, you are basically playing Russian roulette because you don't know if they will just naturally repel each other. There's no way of knowing that. It has nothing to do with glitter. It has nothing to do with, or I shouldn't say it doesn't have anything to do with glitter. It has nothing to do with, I haven't had coffee yet. Good glitter versus bad glitter. Expensive glitter versus inexpensive glitter. It's got nothing to do with any of that. It's not like, oh, you bought that at Walmart, it's going to repel. No, it's nothing about that. I've had glitters that I've spent a stupid amount of money on do this. And if you can imagine how many swear words came out of my mouth that morning. Just safeguard yourself. It literally takes 2 seconds. Just hit your entire cup with spray sealer, let it dry. You're good to go. Okay, so for mixing epoxy, I have rooked in my husband. Hello, Michael.
Hello, everybody.
So we are going to show you exactly the right way to stir epoxy. And by we, I mean him, because I'm not the person that can stir epoxy at all. So he is going to show you. Actually, let me say this. What are you showing us?
I have 3 different tools that you can use. I have a popsicle stick, which is the standard, which comes with most of your cups and stuff like this and stuff like that. I also have metal, which is like stainless steel. Don't want to use anything else but stainless steel because the epoxy is a lot harder to get off. And then my personal favorite, silicone. Because silicone will literally just wipe right off, and if it does harden on it, it peels right off of it because silicone doesn't hold epoxy. And least but my unlikely favorite, my wife's favorite tool, this piece of garbage little rotator, because she cannot mix epoxy for anything.
Not at all.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to properly mix it by hand, unless you really want to be that person and use this piece.
I approve.
I don't. All right. First things first. I got 20 milliliters of epoxy, 10 of regular. It's the A and B, one part. So what you basically want to do is put your B in first because it's a little thinner. And then you want to put your A on top of it because what that does is it creates a better mixture in my personal way of going. Then once you get it where you want it, just slowly take your popsicle stick and slowly work it to start with just to get it to start spinning. This will start to alleviate some of the air bubbles and you can slowly pick it up. But you'll find out why I don't like using mixing sticks like this. You can, absolutely. But what it does is it introduces way too much air into the epoxy, and you start to see all these bubbles starting to form. A lot of people don't really mind that because they can blow it out in the process of when they put it on. But I tend to find out that the more bubbles you introduce into it, the more get trapped under decals and stuff.
You are 100% right about that.
Trust this comes from the guy who has to clean all the cups also. So just take your time and mix it all around. Good average 5 minutes, 3 minutes,
right,
until it's all perfectly mixed together. But as you can see, it's starting to form all these little bubbles trapped inside of it.
Yep,
that's why I do not like using mixing sticks.
Gotcha.
All right. So what we're going to do now...
May I compliment you on all of your accessories, sir, by the way?
Yeah.
My husband runs a company called Nova Heart Designs. Total shameless plug on that. Where he sells all sorts of things like the paracord bracelets, the beaded bracelets. So you never see Mike without completely, repping his brand here.
Mm-hmm. Now for the stainless steel. It's going to be the same thing. 20 milliliters of epoxy. This is a little bit better because it's not as porous as the wood.
Okay.
It's still going to create air bubbles, but you can control these ones a little bit better because it doesn't stick to the stick as much. It doesn't create as many.
Okay.
So you'll start seeing finer and smaller air bubbles opposed to the bigger ones.
Gotcha.
Just start slow just like last time.
Yeah, you're like the master of this. I know I don't have the patience. I don't care how well or how much I've tried to follow, what I know I'm supposed to do. I mess it up every time. I think it's just I get around like third base, I start getting impatient and start going too fast and I mess the whole thing up. Because usually in the beginning I start out pretty well and then it all just kind of goes sideways.
Well, once you start to see it start going clear, you can go faster, but you just need to make sure that wand never leaves the bottom of the cup.
So you keep the wand at the very bottom. You never lift that up.
No.
Yeah, I'd always do that.
And you have to be careful, too. You can go clockwise, counterclockwise.
It doesn't make a difference?
No, but you want to make sure that you're going one direction to start with.
Yeah.
And once you start seeing it get clearer, then you can rotate to the other direction because what you're doing is you're mixing in all the epoxy from the sides.
Now, how do you know when epoxy is fully mixed?
It will be almost crystal clear. You can actually see through the bottom of it.
No threads or anything like that.
You can see through the bottom. Because if you see it now...
It's kind of milky, but it's getting there.
So, but like I said, you can use the stainless steel for this one. Mm-hmm. And as you see, the bubbles are a whole lot finer and a whole lot less with the stainless steel. So, with time and practice, stainless steel is a good option.
Sure. I remember we used that for a really long time.
Yes, I did. Until I found the luxury of my next favorite thing in the whole wide world.
Right.
And the other thing, too, is always keep paper towels handy because it's really easy just to clean off your stainless steel.
Right.
With just a swipe of the paper towel.
And you don't forget.
Right.
Like somebody named Heather used to do all the time.
So, now what we'll
do... This table that we're working on is fabulous. We got all sorts of stuff on this table. I'm like trying to keep you in the frame and keep the table and all that. I'm just like, there's all sorts of stuff going on here. So what's next?
So now we're going to move on to my favorite tool in the world, the silicone wand. Easily purchased on Amazon, I believe is where we get them.
Yep, and I will link those out.
Wife needs a full cup of fast set, so I'm going to go ahead and make that up real quick so you can also see the mixing process with that, and she gets what she needs. Oh, one other thing. When pouring your epoxy, I find a way to limit the air bubbles best to start with is actually pouring your epoxy slightly down the side of the cup so that it doesn't introduce extra air into your epoxy to start with.
Okay.
Because if you just straight pour, you're just grabbing air into the epoxy and pushing it into the cup.
Sure.
And there is no reason to have all that extra stuff. So to start smart is better than
trying to play catch up on the back end.
You know. And pour slowly. Don't just glug it in.
And always beware at the very end, because it seems like epoxy always knows when it's getting to the end, and epoxy always glugs for some reason. Or at least mine does.
Mm.
So same rules apply. Just go slow. Keep your whatever you're, keep it at the very bottom of the cup. And I see like you make like little circle as you go around the cup. Is that right?
Yeah, just because what it's doing is it's pulling all the extra epoxy from the bottom to the top and off the sides.
Do you scrape the sides with your...
No, because what that does is anytime you move that wand up and down, you're introducing more air into the epoxy.
That's how I do it.
So I try to keep the wand ever steady inside the cup. I never try to take it out of the cup, move it off the cup, or around the cup.
So you don't like scrape the sides like you're making frosting, like you're getting the frosting bowl out.
No, because what you're doing is you're mixing it. It's automatically already pulling the epoxy from the side.
Okay.
You can take your wand and go like this.
Yeah, just don't bring it out.
Don't take it out.
Gotcha.
But when you do that, be very careful because as you see, it introduces more air bubbles into it.
Like that's exactly how I used to slaughter cups, 100%. Because I am always thinking that if I don't do that, then all this epoxy is hanging out on the side of the cup. And, it's going to completely mess my cup up when I'm going and trying to apply it. I'm going to have all sorts of raw epoxy. And that's exactly how all the air always gets into my cups whenever I try to do it this way. Plus, it takes forever. And that's the thing that, I mentioned, in the video at some point earlier is... there have been, for years, we did 100+ cups a day, and that's like 40 cup spinners running 2 and 3 times a day. And there's absolutely no way that, the amount of time it takes to mix epoxy like this in huge quantities, it was just completely overwhelming. And I remember, there were times I think I had, your hands were cramping up because you were doing so many, cups of epoxy in one day. And you've got to take the time to get it right. You've got to take the time, you do it right, and you're not going to have nearly as many air bubbles as if you do it wrong, like I do.
Unfortunately, today does not seem like my day, and a lot of bubbles are being introduced in.
Well, you've showed us things that what not to do, and that's what's causing the air bubbles, so don't feel bad.
Normally I do this and it comes out almost crystal clear.
Yeah, you're fine. Like I said, I know that if you didn't show us the, what not to do, you would be right on track with what you normally do.
But no, this just takes time. Just keep mixing and going and going and going. And as you see, I can actually start seeing my finger at the bottom. I keep mine underneath the cup.
Right.
And when I can actually see my finger, like I'm looking through a mirror,
right,
I know I'm done.
Right. How long do you think it would take to, as you're going through, to mix a cup of epoxy that size?
About 5 to 6 minutes.
Okay.
It's no different than doing a small cup.
Sure.
You're just using a larger quantity.
Right.
I would take a little bit longer. I would say probably 7 to 8 minutes if you really want to make sure that everything's mixed.
Right.
But just remember, the longer you mix it, the more chances you have to introduce more air to it.
Right. And plus, if you're using something like Fast Set, you've got to, your clock starts the minute you start mixing. Yep. So you don't have the luxury of taking, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes to mix that epoxy because you're going to flash, cure your epoxy at some point. And we've all been there.
But as you can see, it slowly gets clearer and clearer. There are air bubbles in this one because I had to scrape the sides and stuff. But just keep working it. You'll know, and you'll start to feel it'll feel a lot looser.
Yeah.
When it comes closer to being fully mixed.
Right.
Because when you first put it in, the bee is so thick.
Yeah.
that it feels almost like you're putting your finger in sludge.
Yeah.
When it gets mixed together, it almost feels fluid. And you'll know that.
And I know that we've, like, at different times, like, been, like, you know, we've been working and talking and losing track of things and, you know, put the, I always say white cap, black cap. The white cap, which is supposed to be done second, which is not the hardener, you know, in first, in accident. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, it's so much harder. It's so much harder to stir if you know, don't put the actual hardener in first and the resin in second.
Oh, and also be wary too. If you switch hands like I just did, it is a completely different mixing technique, and it is a lot harder to figure out yourself.
Sure, left hand, right hand. That makes perfect sense. But and also, you know, you're sitting here doing this for 5 and 6 minutes at a time. Your hand's going to get tired. So, you know, especially on something like Fast Set, which is a thicker epoxy, you know, the first two that you showed us, we were actually using Super Clear. And Super Clear is a slow set epoxy. It's very thin. You know, it's got an 8-hour, you know, turnaround on it. And it's, you know, it's a lot cheaper. It's a great epoxy. And here in Florida, even though it bubbles, you know, somewhat, it's just a great alternative to Fast Set. I love my KS resin, Fast Set, but it is a little pricier. You don't always need to have, you know, the fast turnaround. And so, you know, it's just what you prefer.
Now, if you're also using Slow Set, and you do have that luxury of time, you can literally take this and let it sit and watch those little bubbles formulate to the top.
Look how pretty that is.
And grab a torch and just slowly torch the top of them.
Yep.
But this is nothing like I normally do. This still has a lot of air bubbles in it.
Okay, Homer, let me tell you something. Okay, your worst day of your worst day of epoxy mixing is 7,000 times better than my best day. So you're good. Look at that; it's so pretty. All right, awesome. Well, we say thank you to my husband, Mike. That is the proper way to stir epoxy. Also showing the difference, you know, the differences in the materials used and whatnot, the sticks. And now I can go ahead and get to work. So,
okay, better, best. Don't ever use.
Absolutely use. Bye, Mike. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and apply a very, I don't want to say a thin layer of epoxy. We're going to be pretty healthy with it because we want to go ahead and, you know, make sure we're filling in all the little nooks and crannies of the glitter here that's already on there. So just take your time. I usually go really light with my hand. I am not trying to bulldoze my way through this. Like I said, putting it pretty generous. I like to start at the top and just like seal that right away. I can feel the glitter, you know, underneath my hand, but like I said, I'm going very light. I'm not trying to disrupt the magic we have with doing this epoxy method, where the glitter is mostly all laying down so perfectly, however you want to say it, and that pretty much takes care of it. Now, if you have glitter that's sticking up, don't worry about it. If it's something that is, how do I say this? If it's not being held down by the first layer of glitter, like it's just, you know, free range piece of glitter, you can obviously pat it down. You can obviously take it off. The ones that obviously are attached to the cup, you know, from that first layer of glitter, if they're sticking up a little bit, this first coat of epoxy is going to either help it calm down and lay down, or we'll take care of that on the next round. So that's where we are with that. And we know the golden rule, do not forget to blow out your micro bubbles. Okay, so for the record, this is epoxy stirred by me with my little electric mixer. And yes, there's a ton of bubbles in there, especially in comparison to my husband's. But honestly, I am not joking, obviously, when I tell you that I cannot stir epoxy worth anything. I just suck at it. And this right here, even with those bubbles, is honestly better than anything I could do by hand. So thank God for torches. Once your epoxy is fully cured, give it a light sand to take care of any bumps or rough parts or standing up glitter before adding another run of epoxy or possibly two to finish up your cup.
Razor blade, Scotch Brite thingy, sanding block, paper towel tissue. Clean the rib first. I use a razor blade. Go slow. Nice little angle. Do the inside first. Then take it to the top. Go back and forth ever so gently. You're not going to get everything in the first couple passes. Be very careful with your outside edge because you can peel up the outside or cut it away. Always take your finger, run it on the inside, see what you missed. You can always best use a fingernail because you can feel it. Then once you've got all the epoxy off, sanding block. Right around the outside rim. Still everything feels smooth. And come back with a little bit of acetone on Scotch Brite. So clean up any paint or anything else you have left on the inside because it's coarse-ish. Go back, double check, make sure you didn't miss anything again. Small little spots of epoxy. Once that's done, that will leave circular rings inside. This will not. So you go back with just a little bit more acetone on a paper towel and clean up what's left. It takes away all the interior rings and makes it look stainless steel again. And for the final, because nobody likes to drink acetone, rinse it with a little bit of water. Then take a towel, blanket, whatever you would like. Spin dry it. Wipe it down. Then also just make sure you feel the bottom. If you got a little bit of like a little planky sticking out, you can grab your paper towel roll. Give it a few little twists on the paper towel roll. I don't know why it works, but it does. And it kind of free sands down just a little bit without destroying your epoxy or the underlying glitter. It makes it smooth. Now you're ready for packaging. Alright, now that you've done cleaned your cup, now you're ready to go ahead and package, get it labeled and ready to go. So what I do for packaging, this is all the stuff you need. Tape gun, filler paper, parchment paper, box, and your cup. I don't know if you're going to save your box. Best idea because it's easier to ship this way. If you don't, you can just do everything else besides the box. So what I like to do is now that I've got the box, set that aside for a second, and I go to the cardboard box or the shipping box. Sizes may vary depending on the side cup you're doing. Tape up the bottom. Then you get your box ready for your cup. Our vendor boxes like to split every now and again, so what I do, just to make sure it doesn't happen again, add a little bit of tape. I know it doesn't look super professional, but it does the job. Get your lid out, place it on your cup, grab your parchment paper, wrap around. Then all your cups come in these little plastic sleeves. I like to reuse them too. So once the parchment paper holds the parchment paper in place, put it all together in your box, down, right in there. Ours comes with a straw where the vendor sends them with them. Filler paper for in the side so it doesn't bobble around. This is where you would add your straw, your accoutrement, like your business cards. If you want to offer free gifts, you would put your free gifts in here. Stuff like that, you know. I'm not going to go that far right now. Then you just close it up. Tape it up. Slap your label on that bad boy. And then give it to your post guy. Or take it to the post office, whichever you prefer. That is how you package. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Hey guys, okay, so what is up? Do we absolutely love chunky opal? We do, absolutely love it. Like I said in the video, it is a very versatile glitter. You can actually put that on just about any base. Black gets a little hinky because it starts flashing like brown colors or green colors, but on anything else really. The lighter the better. Darker colors will somehow, you know, will always kind of like flash something different. Like I said, browns and greens and things like that. But if you're putting this on like a pastel base or a lighter paint base, you know, you're basically, this glitter is so versatile because whatever paint base color you are putting it on is the color that comes through. So it makes it look like that white opal glitter is purple or green or blue. So it's extremely versatile. It doesn't just have to be chunky. It can be fine glitter. It's just opal is just such a fun way to go with that. If you hear chomping noises during this video, I apologize. I have two dogs underneath my desk who are playing and chomping on toys because apparently in this house that's a 2-story house, there's nowhere else for them to go but right here. So good times. Anyway, let's get back to this. So this is a lot of fun. And like I said in the video too, when I first started doing tumblers, I for somebody who researches the heck out of everything, zero research. Didn't watch one video, just basically went and pilfered like $100 out of the bank account that had no money in it anyway, and you know, went on Amazon and bought some supplies and kind of said, okay, let's go get started, not having any idea whatsoever what I was doing. So, you know, oh well, it turned out pretty well, I guess, to some degree. And the thing is, sometimes you just have to jump into something. If something is interesting to you, just run with it. You know, I know that there's so many people who are like, you know, there's people who will spend months, years, like watching other people do things and not jump into it themselves. And I'm always like, it took me like 3 seconds to be like, yeah, let's go do that. I have no idea what I'm doing, but let's go do it. Sometimes you got to take that jump. So if you're on the fence and you don't know, sometimes you just got to run with it. So, you know, do it. Life's too short not to do it. When it comes to chunky glitter, epoxy method is best. It honestly is. And as much as I have an issue with it, it looks too flat. The whole reason you do an epoxy method is because it flattens out that glitter. If you don't, chunky glitter is gorgeous if you're doing like spray adhesive method, but it is so freaking problematic. It really is. You will have glitter just bouncing up like porcupines. You know, the more the glitter standing up, the more problems you're going to have fixing it. The more epoxy you're having to add to the cup, the more sanding you're going to have to do. And if you're using certain glitters, you know, let's say you've got glitter that's standing straight up, you're putting a layer or two of epoxy, but it's still standing straight up and you sand it. Certain glitters, especially if they're very thick glitters, when you sand it, it sands that area where you've completely like sheared it off. It's not the color of the glitter, it's white. So, oh yeah, let me tell you about a cup I did that with. Absolutely beautiful, purple, thick, color shift glitter. Did not do epoxy method, you know, because I'm my own girl. I'm gonna go do spray adhesive because I like that better. Did that, put 2 runs of epoxy on there. Obviously there's little boinkies all over the place because nothing is laying down. Sanded the entire cup. Every place that glitter sheared off by the sander left white. So if it was sideways, you know, and you're sanding, now you have all these little white specks, white lines everywhere. I wanted to cry. I was so upset because, you know, it's for customers, not for me. Now I've got to start that entire thing over again. Wasted all the glitter, all the product, all of this, all the time. Oh, I was mad. So don't make that mistake, okay? Definitely, epoxy method is the way to go, even though I get mad that it's flat. When it comes to applying your glitter, be sure you go light. You saw in the video where I went very light. I didn't completely like drown it and pour, you know, just free pour glitter on. The reason why you don't want to do that is because it's not giving the epoxy and the spinning and the movement time to lay that down. If you are putting a real heavy coat of glitter on there, you got to think all that glitter stacking up on top of each other. So it's not allowing it to, you know, basically lay down, which is the whole point of doing it epoxy method. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. You will see obviously that I worked my husband into this video. You know, it was so funny because I was like, you know, I cannot stir epoxy worth anything. Like it just looks like trash, but he is so good at that. So I was like, will you please just like show them a little bit of this? And my husband is that guy that never wants to be on film. He doesn't want to say anything. Okay. So he's all like, I'm not saying anything. I was like, nope, I'll just do a voiceover. It's fine. You just go ahead and do what you're doing and I'll put a voiceover on it. Next thing I know, he's all like, hey, I'm Mike and this is how you stir epoxy. And I was like, oh, okay, they're killer. And honestly, okay, shameless plug right now for him. He runs Nova Heart Designs, named after our Nova, our dog that we lost a few years ago. He does amazing like paracord bracelets, beaded bracelets, keychains, wristlets, all that kind of stuff like that. So 1000% shameless plug. I'm going to link him down below. You know, he's got an Etsy store. He's got a website. If you are looking for some kind of like a small gift idea or either for yourself or for somebody else, definitely check out his stuff. I just did my great wifely duty. Okay, moving on. You know, I'm glad that he went ahead and also showed you how to clean a cup. That's one thing. If you are just starting out, you don't know how to clean a cup. You know, I use, you know, he likes the razor blade. I use this instead. I have more control in my mind with this. And let's be honest, I can cut myself on nothing. So it's better for me to have a handle. But it's definitely one of those things that learning how to properly clean a cup, how to properly, I was surprised. He was like, yeah, I'll show you how to package a cup too. Okie dokie, Smokey, we're going to go do that too. So you kind of have everything from A to Z when it comes to doing your first tumbler, all in this video. And I hope you learned a lot from that. You know, when it comes to epoxy mixing, you saw, you know, he did awesome. Like he showed the differences in the supplies. And that's the thing with when you first start doing glitter tumblers. You know, we all watch videos. Like as soon as I realized I had no idea what the hell I was doing, then I went ahead and started watching a couple of videos. But honestly, you know, and it's real easy for somebody to, you know, sit here like you and I are sitting here and me say, this is what you do. You just stir it and now you're done. And that's not how it goes. That's if it was that easy, I would be able to do it. I can't stir epoxy for anything. You know, it takes time and practice. And that's the thing that you've got to give yourself is time and practice. Okay. So, you know, just kind of, you know, when we first started, we had like the little plastic cocktail cups from Walmart, if I remember correctly. We went through every combination of supplies you could imagine. Popsicle sticks, they almost look like little shovels, stainless steel. We did stainless steel chopsticks. We did, oh goodness gracious. There was so much. We basically went through the whole spectrum of supplies. And like he said, the silicone chopstick is the thing that works best for him. that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be what you feel comfortable with. Now, myself, if my little, electric juju thing breaks and, I don't feel like going and trying to like lure him down into my world, and I'm like, I'm a big girl, I can do it myself, whatever. I will sit there and not use the silicone chopsticks. To me, it doesn't feel, it's not comfortable in my hand. That's just me. So I will grab the big stainless one. It's just one of those things that, you have to figure out what works best for you. Now, I will say, in addition to that, we went through a huge, like the whole spectrum of cups too. We had the hard plastic, I'm going to call them a cocktail cup. Okay. The little short, fat ones like this. We had those. Those were too hard. We had the ones that were not hard, brittle plastic, and they were perfect, except it's the weird things. I'm telling you, it's the weird things. On the inside of the cup, not on the bottom, okay, not like on the bottom, but like on the inside of the cup, that's where they had like their little, what is it? A trademark, a something, ridges. There was some kind of a thing there. So if you are putting your chopstick all the way down, you're hitting all that da-da-da-da-da-da-da every time, and it just a million bubbles, because that logo, that whatever it was, instead of having it on the very bottom of the cup, this is a coffee cup, I can't use that one. Instead of having it here, they had it on the bottom, but it was on the inside. Okay. Stupid things like that is what's going to jam you up. So don't, make sure that's something you can look for. The cups that I use for myself are the big, soft. They're not horribly soft. Oh, and then you got the cups that are way too soft that, you're trying to hold and mix and you're doing this because it's too soft. It's a complete Goldilocks situation. This one's too hard. This one's too soft. This one's just right. So, it's just something that you have to work through personally, for what you are going to be doing. Now, the cups that I use, I will not change. I will not. I feel like they are the best for what I do. They are not too hard, not too soft. They have actual measurements on the side of the cup. That helps me because I don't do very rare, well, I won't say how I don't do. Majority of the time I am doing large runs of epoxy. Every once in a while, I'll be doing, I have these 2 cups. They need to, just be done. I don't feel like doing the rest of the stuff that's on the rack. These need to get done faster, whatever. But for the cups that I use, they are it's measured on the side so that I can easily do enough epoxy to do 10 cups out of, this one little cup or whatever. So those are the ones that I always have linked in my shop. They're linked on the community page. I get them off Amazon. That's something I will not change. Now, if you are somebody who's just starting out, or you are somebody who normally only mixes epoxy for 1 or 2 cups at a time, is that something that would be worth it to you? I mean, is that something that I think I get 80 cups for, I don't know, $15, $16, somewhere in that wheelhouse? Is that something that would work for you as somebody who's just starting? I don't know. Only you can assess that. Is it more cost prohibitive, especially if you are just starting, to go get 100 cups for $20 that don't have the measurements on the side? You know what I mean? That's something that you have to look into and work through what is going to be comfortable for you. The only thing I will say about my electric little Juju, mixer thing, as much, and he's like, that thing's ridiculous. Whatever, back up. So the only thing I will say about that is those do not do a very clean job on small runs of epoxy. Now, if I am doing a big cup of epoxy, okay, that thing works fine. And honestly, the little video I showed where I'm like, look, that's honestly the best my epoxy's ever gonna look. I unapologetically suck at mixing epoxy. And I know there's people out there going, that's horrible, look at all those bubbles. You know what? I have a torch, I'll be okay. It's one of those things that it's just, I can do great things in certain areas and not so great things on simple things like epoxy. And I'm okay with that. I've come to terms with that. The electric mixer does a great job on large cups of epoxy, because I am not joking. I am not sitting there for 8 minutes especially if I'm using fast set. Okay, let's say I'm gonna do that for 7 minutes. I have 4 tables to run. All right. I mean, I'll be there for 2.5 hours, and then I got to come back in, 3 hours and do it all over again. I'm not doing that. So my little mixer, it's done in just a couple of minutes. It has bubbles. I can blow them out. I'm not worried about that, but it does not do a good job if I am doing just a little batch. If I have 3 cups, I'm just doing a very small little batch of epoxy. It bubbles up like it is a bad cup of peroxide, okay? It is what it is. So I've got to blow it out even harder, when it's on the cup and whatnot. But if you are somebody who is not used to or not having to do large runs of epoxy, the electric mixer, temper your expectation on that. It very well may be something that's going to help you, okay? If you are like me and accept the fact that you're not good at stirring epoxy, or if you're only doing, a tiny, cup of epoxy once a day, is it worth it to you? Again, it's something that you have to decide for yourself. And one last thing that I want to also throw out here, especially when you're new, okay? You can watch all these tutorials, me and everybody else, it's still not going to get you the little things, okay? And I see so many people who are like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to jump in. I don't want to make a mistake. You have to make those mistakes. You have to make them, okay? Make them big, make them bold, make them small, make them all of them, because that's how you're going to learn, okay? You can sit here and watch me all day long. You can watch, all of us all day long, and it's not going to still touch on all the little things you need to learn that you're never going to see in a video, okay? So when I was adding the glitter to the cup, okay, and you saw me, I've got a piece of paper because, I'm fancy like that. I have a piece of paper and I'm catching the glitter, and I made mention of, make sure to keep your whatever it is you're using to catch the glitter down low enough to where you don't run into the cup. I'm saying that because I've done that more times than I can count. How about when you're holding that piece of paper or the parchment paper or the tray or whatever, and you turn wrong and you drop glitter everywhere, or you're holding it and you're concentrating so much on adding the glitter that you come up and you run up into the cup, and so now you have epoxy glitter everything everywhere. That's not going to be in a video. That's something you have to learn yourself. How about when you're holding that piece of paper and it's just a piece of paper and you have 700 pounds of glitter that you've poured out, okay? And next thing you know, you're not holding it right and the paper bends or, leans out and all your glitter goes on your garage floor. Sadness. Utter devastating sadness, okay? Guess what? Do that once, you're never going to do it again. You're going to know to watch for that. That's stuff you're never going to learn in these videos, okay? So make your mistakes. Definitely make them, all right? And then, like anything else in life, once you screw that up once, next time you're in that same situation, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I have to make sure that I have my hands spread out a little bit more so that the glitter is, you know what I mean? Like, you're not just like, here. You're going to be like, oh, I'm going to hold this different so that doesn't happen again. All of those little things that none of us can sit there and explain to you every single time, every single scenario. Make your mistakes. The only other thing I'm going to say is this, okay? This may come across as an unpopular, opinion. When I first started doing this, okay, obviously I don't know anything. I need to learn it all. I need to learn everything, okay? So I am on social media. I went on Facebook. I literally searched, Tumblr groups for beginners or whatever it is I did. And here's all these social media groups. And here I am. Here I am. Let me tell you about social media groups when it comes to this. And this is not just tumblers. This is with anything, okay? There are really great groups. There are great groups with amazing communities, okay? It's Pretty Personal is one of them. Peachy Olive, Jessica Flynn, okay? Wits End. Like, there are communities that you will learn so much, and they're kind and they're understanding and they are helpful, and nobody is made to feel like any question is a bad question, okay? There are very, very good groups. and you will learn a lot. There are also groups that aren't that great. So if you find yourself in a beginner tumbler group, okay, and you are noticing that the vibe is off, okay, that people are not kind, that people are, I hate these people who are like, well, if you use the search bar, you would see this is a question that's covered often. As per usual in every video, Bailey. I'm assuming that's the delivery guy or the mail guy. So as usual, there's Bailey. I'm going to introduce her one of these days because she's barks in every single video I do. Anyway, again, so if you are seeing that the vibe is just not kind, okay, like I said, I hate those people who, you know, somebody asks a question and, well, if you use the search bar, you would see we've covered this lots of times before. Well, you know what, Bethany? See, that's where I get real I don't like people who are unkind for no reason. You know, if it's something, I used to be part of this group, okay? This is me being a crappy person. I'll fully admit that. I used to be in this group and I didn't really say much, okay? I just kind of like hung out. I you know, didn't ask any questions very often. I read, you know, you're going to learn a lot in those groups. Just stay quiet. You're going to just read everything, every scenario, every answer, every question, because that's how you're going to learn a lot of little things that you're not going to learn in these videos. But I remember one time there was this girl in one of these groups, and every single time somebody asked, I thought she was really nice at first. Anytime somebody asked something, every single answer had to be, well, you know, before I left Etsy, you know, I had, you know, 8,000 sales on Etsy. So I know what I'm talking about. And this is what I did. Every answer had to start that way. And at first I was like, oh, she had 8,000 sales. She knows so much. She's amazing. No, she was a witch, you know. I want to go back and like join that group again and be like, really? Because I'm coming up on 10,000 sales. Am I a better person? I won't do that, but I thought about it. The thing is, there were so many people who would just make people who are trying to learn feel bad, you know, and just to make themselves feel better. So just do not fall into that. My suggestion is if you find that you're in a group like that, okay, and the sad thing is there's a lot of good people in those groups, but it's usually a really big group and the moderators can't monitor it as well. And you're going to find that there's just crappy people. There's crappy people everywhere these days, unfortunately, because they're behind a keyboard. So you know, you don't see those people probably saying this kind of stuff face to face. You know, you're not going to walk up to me and say something like that to my face because I'm going to say something back. All right. You know what I mean? So it's just, you have people just being crappy because they can. If you find yourself in a group, you don't like that vibe, get out, okay? Either get out or just hang back, you know? It doesn't mean there's not a lot to learn from that group. It just means that, you know, maybe if you have a question, maybe you ask it in a group that you're a little more comfortable with. I don't want you to not join groups because, like I said, that's where you're going to learn a lot of very specific scenario information. You know, I did XYZ and then this happened and then this happened and I got a dog hair and you know what I mean? And there's a lot of people who are going to help you how to fix all of this. I'm always here. If you have something, I have 4 dogs. If you need to know how to get a dog hair out of a cup, girl, you hit me up. I'm always here to help. But like I said, just try to get yourself into social media communities that are helpful and kind because it's going to help you. It'll just, you know, you need a community. It's a good thing. If you're in one that's maybe not so kind, learn what you can from them and then dip out because, like I said, nobody needs that negativity. People are just crappy for no reason. And I had to laugh because I was thinking about that the other day when I was getting ready to do all this. And I was like, VMD Designs. VMD is amazing. Amazing. Miss Vanessa is amazing. So definitely go check her out. And she just put this little thing up the other day. And I laughed so hard because I was like, yes, that right there. So it's not just me. And I think that pretty much wraps up this video. I hope that I kind of covered everything you needed to know, especially if you are just starting. If you do have any questions, definitely leave them below in the comments. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Have a great week. I'll see you next time. Bye.